What's up, Fluffle Gang? Welcome back, and if you're new here, my name is Luffy, and welcome to my channel. Today we're talking about the first Silent Hill and the origin of its monsters. We all know by now the monsters in Silent Hill 2 are born from James Sunderland's psyche, but did you know that this trend started in Silent Hill 1, not Silent Hill 2? Silent Hill has always been a town that puts its inhabitants' psyche/guilt/fears on display through monsters, though the monsters in Silent Hill 1 are actually born from Alessa's psyche, not the protagonist, Harry's. Poor Harry is probably the only Silent Hill protagonist to just be caught up in someone else's nightmare and not actually there to be judged himself. Like a true dad, Harry is tasked with fighting the monsters in his daughter's closet. Just a heads up, this video is going to have spoilers for Silent Hill 1. Although the monsters in Silent Hill 1 weren't as iconic as the ones in Silent Hill 2, let's go over what influenced these monsters to take form and show a little love to what laid the groundwork for Silent Hill 2. One influence for several Silent Hill 1 monsters was Alessa's dislike of insects. The only exception to her dislike of insects were butterflies. Several monsters take an insect-like form, including the creeper, the float stinger, the bloodsucker, the hanged scratcher, the twin feeler, and the massive writhing worms that serves as the head for the night flutter and the wormhead. Out of all of Silent Hill's monster designs, almost 40% involve some kind of insect. Alessa really must have hated insects. Two of her monsters, the night flutter and the wormhead, are even stronger versions of other monsters, and it's interesting that the stronger counterparts have worms added to their design. Fun fact, is there such a thing as a fun fact in Silent Hill? One of these insect monsters, the creeper, was carried over to Silent Hill 2. According to Masahiro Ito, the monster designer for Silent Hill, it isn't a manifestation from James, but more like lingering residue from the events that went down with Alessa. Masahiro Ito wanted to pay homage to the first game and did so by including the creepers, which is really cute. It definitely makes me feel more of a fondness for these little cockroaches. Alessa isn't only afraid of insects though, she's also afraid of dogs, especially loud, barky dogs. We've mentioned the wormhead, which is a monster dog with worms for a head, but its de-evolved form, the groaner, is a nasty monster itself. The groaner is a big, leather-bound, demonic dog that would definitely inspire a fear of dogs. Other than insects, another prevalent theme in these monster manifestations is bullying and neglect. Because of her supernatural abilities, Alessa was isolated at school. Her classmates bullied her mercilessly, accusing her of being a witch and writing cruel things on her desk. At home, her mother forced the beliefs of her cult on Alessa and beat her if she didn't follow along. This left Alessa feeling isolated. When she reached out to her mother for comfort, she was rejected and neglected. As a result of all this torment, a few of the monsters manifested in Silent Hill reflect these feelings. The Grey Child, the Larval Stalker, and the Stalker are all monsters that represent Alessa's feelings of isolation, neglect, and abuse. The Grey Child are childlike, knife-wielding monsters. They make sounds of a child's laughter being played backwards when they attack Harry, which could show the warped delight Alessa's classmates took in attacking her. The knives could represent how hostile Alessa perceived her classmates to be, and how willing they were to attack or hurt her at any time. Fun fact, again with the Silent Hill fun fact, Grey Children are only in the North American version of Silent Hill. In Japan and Europe, they were censored and replaced with mumblers as the Grey Children looked too much like real children, and as they were an enemy Harry could kill, they didn't make it past the censors in those regions. The Larval Stalker is one of the few harmless enemies in Silent Hill, though their near translucent appearance can feel threatening, especially when they walk straight up to Harry. Alessa was an outcast amongst her fellow students and neglected at home, leading to feelings of invisibility, much like how the Larval Stalker and Stalker are near invisible. The Stalker is the evolved form of the Larval Stalker, and much more deadly as they can attack Harry. Like the Larval Stalker, the Stalker is near translucent, and as it's around the same size as the Larval Stalker, the biggest threat it poses is accidentally mixing the two up and letting it get a hit in. The aggression of the Stalkers could represent Alessa's anger and maybe even represent her wish to be able to fight back against the neglect and torment. As a child, Alessa loved fairy tales, and so there are monsters Alessa brought to life that are based on the fairy tales she grew up reading. The Splithead, the Mumbler, and the Hanged Scratcher may all have been inspired by fairy tales. The Splithead is a giant lizard creature from a fairy tale Harry finds in Alessa's school, and one he's read himself growing up. Alessa was always terrified of the sounds the boiler made in the school, associating it with the noise the lizard would make from the fairy tale. And so when Harry activates the boiler, he has an encounter with the Splithead. Interestingly, the Splithead steps out from behind a burning figure, which represented the immolation Alessa suffered through. The Mumbler is a small creature meant to represent the small, menacing animals and demons in fairy tales. We've mentioned the Hanged Scratcher before as one of the insect-type monsters, but there are a couple of different theories on this monster. The second theory, and the one I personally lean more into, is that it's actually more reptilian than insect, and it's meant to be reminiscent of a lizard-like dragon. The Air Screamer is a flying enemy that resembles a pteranodon, covered in leathery skin and vaguely humanoid features, and is a manifestation of a pteranodon from The Lost World by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, one of Alessa's favorite books. Another subset of terrifying monsters are those born from Alessa's run-in with doctors and nurses after her mother tries to burn her alive in order to bring about their god. After she survives the burning, Alessa is brought to Akamilla Hospital and held in the basement away from prying eyes. Lisa, her nurse, is her caretaker, and though she does her best with Alessa, it doesn't stop Alessa from getting a warped perception of doctors and nurses. A parasite infects the staff of Akamila Hospital and warps the doctors and nurses into the monsters Harry has to fight. Not much is known about this parasite, though it could be symbolic of the god growing inside of Alessa that she most likely viewed as a parasite. I personally also think it could be symbolic of Akamila Hospital's willing involvement in the PTV drug trade. These doctors let greed parasitize them, and so their values were twisted and their actions puppeted by the needs of the drug trafficking economy. It can also represent how those in charge of Akamila Hospital cared more about lining their pockets and throwing parties than patient care. Sybil Bennett, a police officer from Brahms who is fighting to help Harry find his daughter, is also infected by the same parasite, though it's curable. The last of the monsters aren't necessarily something Alessa manufactured, as it's the end boss, which changes depending on the ending you get. Depending on Harry's actions, Alessa may transform into the incubator or the incubus. The incubator, as the name implies, is symbolic of an incubator for a baby, as Alessa is the incubator for the cult's god. Though the incubator is just a monster like the rest, it also seems to be Alessa's image of God. The incubator is clothed in robes that glow white and attacks with heavenly lightning volleys. In the Bad and Bad Plus ending, Harry fights the incubator and loses his daughter along with the death of the monster. In the Good and Good Plus ending, the incubator has a substance, a vial of Aglaophotis, thrown on it, which expels the evil from Alessa's body in the form of the incubus. The incubus looks like what we traditionally consider a demon to be and is a manifestation of the god worshipped by Silent Hill's cult. Harry must fight this iteration of their god in the Good and Good Plus ending routes, and when it's defeated, it triggers the collapse of the Otherworld, as it's what's causing the Otherworld to manifest. Thankfully, Alessa holds back the collapse of the Otherworld so that Harry can escape. Alessa suffered immensely leading up to the events of Silent Hill 1, and this is reflected in the monsters roaming the abandoned streets. Invisible, childlike monsters dart in the shadows while their visible, vicious counterparts attack Harry mercilessly. Warped doctors and nurses come at Harry with terrifying weapons, there to maim instead of heal. Bugs are everywhere to terrify and disgust. These monsters are a reflection of Alessa, not our protagonist Harry. The monsters of Silent Hill 1 do an excellent job of laying the groundwork for the monsters of Silent Hill 2 to clearly represent the twisted inner machinations of James Sunderland's mind. And that's what we have for the influences for the Silent Hill 1 monsters. Thank you so much for watching and for making it to the end of the video. I really appreciate it. Please subscribe, like, bell. We're almost to 1,000 subscribers, which I am just so excited for. Once we hit 1,000 subscribers, we'll do something special. I'm really leaning towards streaming Metal Gear Solid 2. I think that would be a ton of fun. So please subscribe. More importantly than that, please take care of yourselves, and I will see you all in the next one. Thank you.